Now, I'm sure most of us have been playing WoW for quite some time now. And even if you haven't, I'm sure you always think of changes that you'd want in the game, because how do you play the game without thinking of what you'd want to change? And with WoW's decline in sub numbers over the years, we tend to think if WoW doesn't change things, it won't survive. But this video, it's not going to be that negative. In fact, at the moment, I think the game is headed in a very positive direction. And had this video been a few years ago, well, my list of things would be a lot longer and this video probably would be more negative. But Blizzard has actually fixed a lot of the problems I had in the game, so it's not as long. But yes, today we're talking about things in retail WoW that I want to change into the future, you know? Now, I'm going to do this video in two different parts, all right? The first part, I'm going to try to fix retail WoW with, changes I'd make to the current game to make it more fun and enjoyable for me. And then we're going to theory craft a little game reset, or a WoW 2, if you'd call it that, and how I would want that to be. Now, let me start off by saying everything going forward in this video is my opinion on what I think would be fun and good for the game. If you don't agree, you don't have to leave a hate comment. I'd actually love to hear your ideas for the game down in the comments below. Let's start with how to save retail WoW. And first, let me say, I don't think retail WoW is dying. Everybody's been saying WoW is dead for years. I've heard it since Cataclysm. No, I don't think it's happening, nor do I think it's going to happen. This is just, a video talking. The first thing I think WoW is lacking in currently is the characters and the overall story. Throughout WoW's time, there's been so many super cool and badass characters. I'm talking Arthas, Illidan, Garrosh, Varian, Medivh, Gul'dan, Thrall, old Thrall, not current Thrall. But my point is, Warcraft always had super cool and badass hero characters. And I'd even argue they had even more badass villain characters than hero characters. And it would always make for awesome stories and fantasies of fighting the final boss. Where in current retail WoW, I am not a big fan of the hero or villain characters. Like, who's the villain right now? Sark in the last raid? He literally just looks like a regular Drakthir. He doesn't even look like a special NPC. He looks like a created character. And the last time I thought we had a cool villain was probably like Sire Denathrius. That guy was badass. We should bring him back. I know he's not dead, but even before that, I wasn't a fan of any of the villains really in BFA. But Legion was badass. Now, I think the best solution here is to just make better use of our established characters. Like, make Thrall cool again. Maybe bring back guys like Rexxar. There's so many characters and we're focusing on, like, I don't know, skinny dragon boys. Like, I understand the whole expansion is about dragons, but it's about us going to the dragons, so, we could have some of our cool characters. Now, they could also try to introduce new characters and build them up. I know it's possible to do it because they did it with Garrosh. Garrosh wasn't in the Warcraft universe before Burning Crusade. Now, he might have been mentioned, and I'm doing a terrible job at research, but he was not really introduced until Burning Crusade, and they made Garrosh, in my opinion, the best character in the whole series until they killed him. Because with Garrosh, whether you hated him or loved him, everybody for the most part has an opinion on Garrosh. Whereas a lot of characters in WoW nowadays, it's like we just don't care. Like, I don't care about Sibelian. I don't care about Razageth. I don't care about Sark. But I can make a whole nother video talking about characters in Warcraft. And I probably will, actually, because I do want to talk about characters. But I got other sections of the game that we need to cover in this video, like the most important one, the early game. Now, this is a section that would have been a lot longer, and I would have had way more grievances even with just a year ago. But I will give it to Blizzard. They have fixed some things, but I still think there could be more. I think Exile's Reach is a great addition for brand new players and teaching them how to play for the first time. But what I think is even better is that they don't force it anymore. Some people aren't new. They're just on a new account. And if somebody is just on a new account and they're not new, they don't need tutorials and spoon-fed the whole game, or sometimes they just don't want to. Now, one thing in the early game that has me a bit torn is scaling. Because me personally, I prefer the world before scaling. I really liked out-leveling zones, and then I could go back and I'm just way stronger. And I'd build up to take on new zones and higher level zones. But with the amount of expansions and quests there are nowadays, being able to choose an expansion you want to level to is probably what's best. So that one's really torn for me. I'd love to know what you guys think about that one. Another thing that used to be prominent in the early game that I wish still was professions. professions. Professions used to be like something that you do while you level, and now you don't. It's just, if you're doing your professions while you're leveling, you're just wasting your time. There's literally no point, because you could just get to max level and then just do your professions in 2 seconds. But I know some people, they probably don't like doing professions while leveling it, so whatever. I won't get too far into it. And also, I'm not a big fan of heirlooms, but I realize at this point, it's probably too far to take away heirlooms. All right, that's one of those forbidden doors that we gave people heirlooms, so we can't take them away now, but I just don't like them personally. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is time walking. And even this section has 2 sections within the section, because we got time walking week-long events, and we also got time walking campaigns for when you're leveling your characters. Now, I know that kind of goes into the early game, but who cares? Now, time walking leveling campaigns, I have no problem with for the most part. I just don't like the fact that you can't do them anymore once you're past level 60. Sometimes I just want to go quest in an old zone on my main character, and I don't want to one-shot everything. So just let me talk to Chromie still. What harm does it do? I don't understand. Now, the time walking weekly events, when they were first introduced, they were one of my favorite features added to the game. But it's been 7 years, and we have not gotten that much added. We've gotten 3 time walking raids, and we have a 4th one on the way soon, but that's it. And I don't like that when time walking's going, there's only like 5 or 6 dungeons from that expansion in the rotation. And it's always the same ones. It's not like it swaps around ever. And a lot of these old dungeons are just forgotten about. Like, I want to do places like the Well of Eternity, like Dead Mines. Like, there's all kinds of dungeons that aren't in the rotation that are just gone and forgotten about. So I just think each expansion's time walking event should have every dungeon available. And eventually, I think it should have every raid available too, but, you know, I'm sure it takes more work to get the raids ready. And some people might not agree with this, but I think time walking should never have an off week. Just every week be a different time walking expansion. Who cares? What does it hurt? And honestly, while we're at it, let's just make the time warp badge currency account bound. Why can't I collect it on all my characters? And this is coming from somebody who has almost all the mounts that you can buy with the currency. There's only 2 that I don't have left. And I have the time waster too. I just personally think time walking is a super important part of the game, because it preserves the history of the game. I want to play the old content like it was, but in the current game, kind of. You know, it's not going to be exactly ever, but it could be a fun simulation of what it was. But now it's time for a real section of debate. Let's talk about the end game. Now, a lot of the end game in Dragonflight, I enjoy. I think flight stones and crests to upgrade your gear is a pretty good system, and being able to turn your gear into tier set, it makes gearing a lot easier and rewarding and less stressful, but there is one thing I would try to change, and that was giving people a reason to raid. I feel like right now, nobody wants to raid. Why? Because Mythic Plus is so much easier, faster, less stressful. You only have to get 5 people together, you get more loot, and then the gear you get, you can just turn into the raid gear without having to do the raid. The raid, the only reason you'd really do it is to get some best in slot rings, trinkets, and necklaces and stuff like that. Because even me personally, I'm going to tell you right now, in the new raid, as soon as I get that mount, you're never going to see me there again. And faded raids are another thing that I think should come back. And if I had to guess, well, they probably will be back for the last raid tier of the expansion. But why not just have it now? There's no reason to do Vault of the Incarnates, and next year there's going to be no reason to do the current raid. So I think they should just have faded raids last the entire expansion so that we always have a reason to do all the raids of the current expansion. And the other side of Endgame is the PvP. Now, I've never been a high-rated arena player, and I haven't done any PvP this season, so I'm not going to talk too much on PvP because I don't want to look like a jackass who doesn't know what he's talking about, because for the most part, I don't. But what I do know is that PvP in WoW right now is way too complicated. There is like so many buttons you have to press, so much shit you have to memorize, so much going on the screen that nobody watching will ever know what's going on. I just think there's too many buttons. If it was up to me, I would reduce PvP down to like 10 buttons because it's like too much. You have to know all 30 of your abilities, and then you have to know the abilities of all 36 specs in the game so that you can fight them. And pushing your rating to get up to Gladiator is even a bit much now because, hey, I don't really know what I'm talking about, but there's like less than 1,000 Gladiators in Dragonflight. There was like 4,000 in Shadowlands. And man, I just wish in general they'd just stop designing the game around esports and design it like an RPG again. Let us change our gear in Mythic Plus and our talents. Who cares? It's not a big deal. We're not in a tournament right now. We're sitting at home just wanting to run some keys. But anyways, those are all the things that I really had to say about the current retail WoW. I'm sure I missed some things, some important things, and I'm sure you guys will let me know down below if I missed anything, and please tell me what you guys think too. But instead of trying to fix the current game, to be honest, I would rather have a fresh restart as a new game, a quote, a WoW 2 as you would call it. And the way I would want to do this is we have whatever expansion be the last expansion for WoW. They say this is the last one. The servers will still be up if you want to play, but for the most part, no new content here. And in this final expansion, whoever the final villain is should win. We should lose. Azeroth is no longer ours. It's not under our control. Then the Warcraft universe can go under some great depression for like 1,000 years before it comes back. This way, we can have a whole new cast of characters. We can have the world be evolved over time so it can be the same Azeroth, but all the zones are completely different because it's been 1,000 years of who knows what's going on. All the races could slightly evolve too over 1,000 years. So all our trolls, orcs, elves, everything else can look slightly different. And all the zones will have new lore to them too, and new quests and new what's going on here. And most importantly, our player power level can go down to pretty much nothing like vanilla. And to be honest, I'd want the game to have a lot of the same design philosophies of vanilla. We'd also get like a fresh start on mounts, toys, pets, transmog, achievements, and we can just start over. And hopefully we can avoid opening forbidden doors that WoW opened and it was too late to close. Now I know this is hopeful, but, me, just like everyone else, would want no cash shop on here. I don't even want toys or battle pets. Transmog is something, too, that I think should be taken with a different approach. I do like transmog under some conditions, but in this new game, I think how you should get the transmog should be you only get full sets of transmog, and you only get that full set if you earned it while the content was the relevant content. So no getting dripped out on a raid set that you didn't do while it was current. And I'd also make it so you can only put transmog on purple quality gear. Why, you ask? Well, it's only because when a new expansion starts, I just want to see everybody running around in derpy questing gear, not in raid gear like they're some kind of beast at the start of the expansion. Also, I just want the game to feel more grounded again, like I'm just an adventurer going around. And I know some people like the whole chosen savior of Azeroth thing, but it's just not my thing, not for WoW at least. Also, I'd say no flying, but hey, if we're gonna add flying, only add in dragon riding, all right? I don't like the hover flying. Like, it's cool and all, but, looking back, I wish it was never added. But anyways, I probably missed a ton of important things, but in general, these are my ideas of how to save World of Warcraft. But again, I don't think WoW necessarily needs saving because I don't think it'll die anytime soon in the first place. So let me be clear again and say I do really enjoy where the game's at right now, and I'd love to hear ideas and things that you guys have thought about down in the comments below. You guys should also go follow me on Twitch because I want to start streaming soon. I'd love for any of you guys to show up. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.
Hey, it's actually me again, so I know the video's over, so I'm leaving this voicemail, actually, because I forgot two things. One, Blizzard, could we please just be allowed to collect the transmog of all armor types on a single character? Come on, why not? And, could we please also get the Brawlers Guild back? It's just fun to fight bosses with other people around. Come on. Come on. Come on. Anyways, see you guys. Like the video.